Well, hello, everybody. It's great to see you today, and I'm hoping that you're having a good day as we're preparing for spring break. This webinar today is going to be all about discussing collaborative retrieval practices in the classroom. My name is Lindsay Parson. I teach at Community High School and currently a science teacher at the high school and teaching anatomy and physics in classes. So let's get after this thing. So collaborative retrieval practices. We all do this every single day in our classroom. It's those little exercises that students do that are not a test or an assessment grade. They are more of a formative practice and stuff like that. And collaboratively, that's with our students working in groups. And since we as a campus and also as a school district have really been looking at this as a whole and a better way for our students to put their heads together and learn together and discuss things and just to bring up their scores in many, many ways and different things like that. So what we're going to look at is the definitions of these collaborative learning as well as retrieval practices. So first things first, what are retrieval practices? I have a little retriever here to help with this because what does a retriever do? A retriever goes and gets what was caught or what was hit or what was tapped into at that particular moment in time. And retrieval practices, what they are, there are strategies that bring information to mind to enhance and boost learning, okay? And that's what we're all about when it comes to teaching. We want our students to get the information that we want them to get through our SEs or TEKs or standards or whatever you want to call them that we're teaching in the classroom based upon the topics. And we want them to be able to bring them or extract them out of their own minds when it comes to an assessment or something like that so that they can use the information instead of maybe memorize it and forget it. So retrieval practices are ways that students can get the information, use the information, practice with the information, and remember it when it comes down to an assessment type situation like a standardized test. Okay, and then in collaborative learning, see all these labs working together. Collaborative learning is a situation in which two or more people learn or they attempt to learn something together to capitalize on one another's resources and skills. We've all heard the saying that says 2 heads are better than 1. Well, 3 heads are better than 2. 4 heads are better than 3, okay, so on. We don't want the group to get too big, though, because any of us know as teachers, if we have a group of students, 4 or more, it becomes a big distraction, and sometimes students can really get easily off course and just off track. So this is just a way, collaborative learning, group learning, also called academic pairs and whatever the lingo is for the particular thing. It's all about group work. It's all about students using each other to help each other learn and help each other to remember information. I remember going through college, it was always helpful for me to have my kids or have my husband help me with different vocabulary in the different science courses I was in. And it was just, doing flashcards back and forth. And it was something that was so simple, but it was really helpful to have more than one person trying to do it together. All right, so we're going to take a look at the standards, the ISTE standards for retrieval practices. Standard number 6, the creative communicator, and this is an opportunity for students whenever doing retrieval practices, either by themselves or together, they can communicate clearly and express creatively for using different platforms and tools and tech and stuff like that to be able to communicate what it is they're trying to say. And also the global collaborator, they can use these digital tools, the digital tools that we're going to talk about today, to practice what information it is that has been taught to them in their classes. Okay, so here are some examples of some strategies that we can use technology for with retrieval practices, and these can also be used collaboratively in the classroom. We have here Flipgrid. Flipgrid was a webinar that we had hosted earlier this week, and it is an amazing tool that students can use for warm-ups, they can use for exit tickets, and ultimately that's what warm-ups and exit tickets are. They are retrieval practices. They are tapping into that information into our students' minds so that they are exhibiting how much they know in order for us to be able to take a look at it and say, hey, maybe we need to go over this again because not everybody knows this. Okay, so in Flipgrid's a way to do that with video. Padlet is one that we are going to use today. Padlet is just an excellent tool to do the same thing for students to be able to collaborate on the same screen, very similar to what would be used maybe for a brainstorming practice with sticky notes. So Padlet is like an electronic sticky note kind of thing, and all of the information that students have can be reorganized. Google Classroom. We do use Google Classroom as a school district at Community Independent School District. So we're going to take a look at Google Classroom today as well, and just look at how you can have a conversation with your students to capitalize upon what they know as a group and how they can help each other out without having any distracting conversations, but they can also talk to each other digitally. You can do this through Google Docs and Google Slides. Before we took our semester 1 exam, my students collaborated on a Google Doc through all 4 sections of anatomy and physiology, and they just collaborated and made the study guide together, and that's what they used to prepare and study for their semester exam. Interactive notebooks are an excellent tool for students to have in their different classes in using retrieval practices. For instance, in the interactive notebooks that my students keep in class, and many interactive notebooks that other teachers employ throughout the education community, often students will take their notes on the right-hand side, and then they would do the retrieval practice activity on the left-hand side. And that's often called like an input and output all on the same page of the opened notebook, both left and right. And interactive notebooks, yes, you have like the information download from the student on the right-hand side. That's where they write the information that they need for the day. And then on the left-hand side, that's the practicing using that information. And it's a really cool thing. This month actually, I'm going to be attending a workshop on digital interactive notebooks, and I'm looking forward to that. Quizlet has been around for a long period of time. This is another opportunity and way for students to be able to practice using the information that has been presented to them to extract it from their minds to help them to remember it better. And then Adobe Spark is a wonderful piece of software for students to be able to creatively make a bunch of different things when it comes to recalling and using the information and practicing with the information. So the 2 that we're really going to focus on for this particular webinar are going to be Padlet and Google Classroom. But just know, retrieval practices can be done in a multitude of different ways. Even the old traditional paper and markers and crayons, or using marker boards and stuff like that. It's all about students using the information and using the information together to make each other better and recalling it so that they've got it stuck in their minds for future use. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to practice with Padlet. And those of you who have ever made a Padlet before, Padlet is, it's kind of like a parking lot, if you will, what it used to be used in the past. It's a way for collaborative learning across an entire classroom, or it can be done in different groups. Okay, so if you want to make a Padlet for students to be able to respond to, maybe this would be a warm-up for the day, and if you have collaborative learning groups in your classroom or academic pairs in your classroom, what you could do is you could assign each group their own Padlet to be able to respond to a particular prompt, and then they can switch and talk to each other back and forth. So let's say we want to construct the Padlet as a wall. So it would be a wall that they would be able to write on. So if I'm going to select this, many people have used Padlet. Waiting for my computer to load. Here we go. Okay, so a wall here, and Padlet's kind of cool, and they're really hip in how they do things. They go ahead and make it my epic wall, and they name it for you. So let's say I want to say Fridays. Let's spell that again. I can't spell. Riday. Fridays warm up. Okay, so Friday's warm up question would be something like this. What wave of light, since we're learning about light waves and stuff like this, what wavelength of light would have a frequency of 400 megahertz? Okay. Then describe how to do this problem. Okay, so in my opinion, this is a really nice way for students to be able to recall the information that was covered the day before or the previous lecture before, and then they could also go through the process, recalling the process and how to do it. All right. Here with Padlet, you can change the wallpaper. You can add like a bunch of different things. I'm going to put a picture in here. Windmill's kind of cool. Ooh, a sunset. So that just changes the wallpaper. And you can also add some of your own things. You can change the font that you want everything to be posted in. Okay. And I'm going to change the new post to blast. Okay. And then this is a nice feature over here on Padlet. If you want this to be a collaborative effort between students, like maybe you would if you want them to have a conversation with each other, Padlet gives you the opportunity for students or whomever it is that you're sharing the Padlet with to be able to comment and talk to each other within the classroom. Something that you would have to do, I mean, if this is for elementary, middle school, and even high school students, you would have to make sure that you establish courtesy rules when it comes to commenting on each other's posts and talking to each other, maybe correcting each other, making sure that they're being polite and that kind of thing. So that's a nice option for classroom management as well as managing how they talk to each other. You can also add different reactions if you'd like to, give people the opportunity to like the different posts that people make as well. So that's just a nice thing right there. And you can also filter profanity if somebody puts in there. And then before something posts, you can require approval, that kind of thing like that. And it would pop up on the host of the Padlet. So those are nice features, like I said, for allowing those comments of other students and stuff like that. Okay, so the next thing you can do is you can start posting. Okay, to post on the Padlet there, you would click the plus sign down here, and then you can move things around on the Padlet itself. Okay, I'm going to show you a Padlet that some of my students did today as they took notes in class. So I can show you one that's already done. It's the electromagnetic spectrum. Students took notes over this today, and instead of writing their summary in their notebooks today, I asked them to put their summary in here on the Padlet. So this is their response to that summary for their notes for today. All right, so this is just a brief introduction to Padlet. I hope that this is helpful, and there's a bunch of different things that you can do. You can send links and stuff like that through Padlet. You can go and there's a lot of really nice features for it. Again, it's just an opportunity in a way for us to be able to share information with each other and for our students to be able to share information with each other. And how is this a retrieval practice? Well, by looking at each other's work and creating a verbal document or something like that, they can always add pictures to the Padlet as well. It just gives them the chance to, once again, to tap into that information that's already in their heads. And that's the whole purpose of retrieval practices. It's to bring that information that's been downloaded by looking at something or reading something or hearing something and extracting it from their mind so that they can use it. And that'll help them to remember the concept or the topic much later when they're being assessed. Okay, so let's take a look at our next thing that we're going to look at today. We're going to go into Google Classroom, and we're going to go into one of my class periods for Google Classroom. As this is opening here, Google Classroom is a nice digital format for us to be able to communicate with our students and to give them opportunities to be able to express themselves in however way that they're being prompted to do. Okay, so what I chose Google Classroom here because I just wanted you to kind of see how you can have different comments and stuff like that. So if I were to be asking my students in class, if say this is an exit ticket for the day, okay, similar to what the Padlet was earlier with the summary on the electromagnetic spectrum, if I were to ask a question for students as they were exiting for the class, maybe I would say something like this: how does ultraviolet radiation affect human skin? Okay, from the information that was presented in the class, I can post this question, and then the students that are in this class could have the opportunity to respond to it, add class comments, and they can also respond to each other in Google Classroom. And this could also be used if you've ever done a Socrative seminar. I know that's an AVID strategy, but it's an opportunity for the students who are in the group talking about the particular topic or the article or the problem that's being presented for you to make back channels in the classroom. So conversation can be happening all around the room, even though there is a group in the center talking out loud verbally. The rest of the class could be talking to each other through these comments and making observations about the conversation that they are seeing happening in front of them and hearing happening in front of them as well. So this is just another way for us to be able to use our technology to help students get that information together as a group, as well as individually improve in remembering what it is that they've learned in the classroom. Okay, so I'm going to go back. And you can see here, these are all wonderful tools that are used frequently throughout education in many, many different ways. You can use these to do assessments, and also you can use these to help with students to be able to remember the information that was presented in class. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Another thing that I was investigating when it came to retrieval practices, another thing that I was looking out for was I was trying to think about different ways that I could do a better job of doing retrieval practices in my classroom. Because sometimes when they go to take those assessments, I think that they're ready to go and then their scores aren't the greatest. Even though all of the SEs have been presented, they've done several different activities and things like that. What can we do better? So this idea of retrieval practices is just continuing to evaluate our teaching, continue to look at how kids are doing and how things are going on a regular basis. And this is just another opportunity for us to do this. And by doing this collaboratively with our students, it gives them that opportunity to help each other out in a positive way, and also just to hopefully help them improve and get better so that they'll be more successful when it comes to their schoolwork, and hopefully more successful when it comes to moving on in their lives as well. All right, so that just about wraps up everything I had to say today. We'll hang on here for a couple more minutes if any of you have any questions about retrieval practices, all in all. But I appreciate everybody joining our webinar today, and I hope that this has been helpful to you. And I look forward to learning more about this stuff with y'all and just continuing out throughout the rest of the year. Do any of you have any questions? All right. Well, thank you once again for joining us, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.